The Office of the Legislative Auditor was established in 1973 to provide nonpartisan and independent examinations of spending, resources, and programs throughout state government. Jim Nobles has been at the helm of this work as Minnesota's legislative auditor for the past 38 years and has recently announced his intention to retire. He joins me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
In your retirement announcement, you wrote that you began your career as an intern in the research department at the House of Representatives in July of 1972. How did you find your way to becoming the legislative auditor in 1983? And as a young man, could you have even envisioned a career like the one that you've had?
No, I really didn't envision it. You know, and I know this may sound like I'm just being modest, but it's true. I was very, very lucky. I came to work at the legislature because my guidance counselor at graduate school said, you know, they've created this nonpartisan research office at the House of Representatives. Would you like to serve your internship there? And I said, well, yeah, of course. But what I didn't know and learned quickly is that the legislature, Minnesota legislature, but other legislatures around the country, were doing a variety of things to really strengthen the legislative institution as a part of checks and balances, separation of powers. And there were just some wonderful leaders here on a bipartisan basis doing that. And so the legislature brought in a number of offices, individuals. The revisor came into the legislative branch from the Supreme Court. So I came at just the right time for an opportunity for somebody like me who was interested in government but really didn't want to get involved in politics. Unfortunately, I sometimes see both sides.
Well, I think your position has also required you to develop skills in diplomacy and succinctness. To that end, the final sentence of your retirement letter reads, and is perfectly worded, quote, "Serving as legislative auditor has truly been an honor, and many days it has also been fun." Talk about the fun.
Okay. Well, let me say, though, the honor is to be working on really important principles of our democracy. As I said, separation of powers, checks and balances, and accountability. If we don't have accountability in government, that's when the foundation is really cracking. So to be able to work on that was an honor. But yes, and you know, as legislative auditor, I had to not always show that I was having fun because, you know, we deliver some pretty tough reports. I think the fun part was certainly working with great staff at the office, but was also a sense of putting together a puzzle. There are important questions that are being posed, allegations, and my job was to go out and find the pieces that would create an accurate, objective picture of what happened. Are the allegations true? If they are, how did we get to that place? But if they were not true, I had to tell that story fully too, and with just as much care, rigor, and credibility.
And so then that leads really well to my next question. How challenging has it been over the years to maintain trust, both from the public and from lawmakers?
Well, it's always in the job. And frankly, I had somebody tell me once, you know, Nobles, you got a really easy job because you're just Dudley Do-Right, you know. And some days I have felt, yeah, I mean, my job is pretty straightforward and simple. And that is, again, it's fact-finding. And I have a lot of people to help me do that. And we're dedicated to it. So finding the facts is sometimes challenging in and of itself. You have to track down all the documents, you have to interview all the people who are involved. And if we do that, then that's going to, I think, establish our credibility in each and every report.
When I first came to the Senate, one of the big stories that your department delved into was the alleged state-sponsored child care funds being used for terrorism. Your office investigated and found no evidence. So I just wonder, I mean, that's a major case in my mind, but of all of the major cases that you and your office have investigated, what are one or two that stand out that you are very proud of?
Well, that one for sure. And it was very high visibility, controversial, and at times even became political. As you know, there was a media report with witnesses, supposedly people who knew what they were talking about, whistleblowers who had worked on the inside of government, who said there was $100 million in fraud in the child care system, and that a lot of that money was going overseas to fund terrorists, specifically in Somalia. So what I had to do was, first, is there fraud? And we found, yes, there is some, and what we relied on were the convictions in court. And so it was a matter of relying on the facts that had been presented to a judge or a jury. But then we looked for, well, where is that money going? And that's where we had to do a tremendous amount of work and talk to a lot of investigators who work in that world of terrorism. And frankly, it was extremely helpful that they were cooperative. And so we worked with the FBI, we worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and what we had to know is, and of course, they have to be careful about what they share. And so I had to build trust with them, that I would maintain confidentiality. But we needed to know, what do you know? Because we can't find the evidence. We can't go to Somalia and track the money. But there were people who were doing that. And so they told us, yes, there is money coming from the United States and Minnesota that ends up in the hands of terrorism. People probably don't want that to happen, but the terrorists knock on their door when they know they've received a remittance from the United States. But we couldn't find that the child care money was a part of that.
Mm-hmm. The phrase that data doesn't lie has been used historically to defend the results of scientific inquiry and analysis. But at this moment, it does seem that some people are increasingly skeptical of the information that comes from government and institutions. Will the next legislative auditor's job be more difficult than yours has been?
Yes. The political environment in which we work has changed, and many issues are very politically polarized. And I already know that sometimes it was difficult to convince a legislator that was absolutely sure that there was $100 million because heard it on television, and to convince them that we couldn't establish that and find that evidence, or that it was going to terrorism, really sometimes created a difficult situation for us. But also the fact that we named cases that involved Somalis that were convicted of some amount of fraud really antagonized some people on the other side. And so, yes, it can be very challenging because people have agendas. But again, if we have the facts, we show them where we got the facts to the degree that we can, I think that's all we can do to really maintain the credibility. And then it's up to politicians. It's up to elected officials to allow people like the legislative auditor to have this opportunity, this office. And there are some around the country who have issued reports and not survived. It's an interesting thing that to survive as a nonpartisan person in a political environment, you have to have political support. And we've had that, and we've been able to maintain that. And it is a great compliment. As divided as the political leadership is, they do come together on this thing of having the Office of Legislative Auditor and supporting us no matter what the report is. And I've had members of the Legislative Audit Commission tell me, you know, I sometimes really don't like your reports.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But they will still support the office, and I hope that continues.
Mr. Jim Nobles, Legislative Auditor, I want to congratulate you on your career and thank you so much for your time and wish you all the best in retirement.
Thank you very much.